So first up in today's list, why I started this channel. Back in my day, when I was using YouTube a lot, I noticed that most of the things that I learned from came from people with good experience, or they just showed what worked for them, and you could take that experience and make it work for you. And unfortunately, I think these days we have kind of lost that plot. And so what I see now is that we just read books, we read science studies and all that, and basically just regurgitate the same cookie cutter information about discipline and learning and all this stuff on the internet. And so being someone that learns from other people's experience, myself, I figured, since I have experience in multiple areas, I'm not the best at everything, but I have a pretty good amount of experience in a lot of things. I figured if I make this channel, maybe 10 people would watch it and say, hey, I learned like him. I don't like to read, theory. I want to see what actually works and take experience from that. And so I figure there would be some people who would see that and get help from what I say. Now, I didn't know it would take off like this, especially this quickly, but that was my reason for starting this channel. And I may sound like the evil villain here real quick, but I have a problem with the fact that most of these people these days don't have a lot of the results that they're telling you how to get. Again, I don't want to sound like that guy, but I have to bring it up. When I look at people's channels, right, one of the things I look at is, what have you done? I always ask myself this, and maybe I'm a little hypercritical because, again, I learn through other people's experience. So I always look at, what have you done? What have you learned? If you're talking about discipline, how have you actually applied discipline? If you're talking about consistency, how have you actually applied consistency? Things like that. If you're talking about language learning, are you using the language in real time, or is it heavily jump cutted? Is it very curated environments? Maybe I'm a bit extreme, more extreme than most people, but I have to see this personally, because it's really hard for me to take advice from someone if I don't see them using the thing in real time specifically, or like I can't see a track record of how that's been useful in their life. And one of the cool things I've noticed is that there are people, like I said, those 10 people that I talked about, maybe there's 10 people like me. There are people in the comments who will say that, like, hey, it's good to see someone with results talk about this, because they are seemingly like me, where they need to see that. So I started this channel really to be a representation of that. It's not really for clout. I don't care about all that. I don't care about subscribers and things like that, which, again, by the way, I don't think I mentioned this. Thanks for the 100K and all that. It goes up and down every day. I might go to 99K one day. I don't know. But one of the reasons I don't do celebrations and all that, because people keep asking me, am I going to celebrate 100,000 subscribers, all that stuff. I do have the silver play button. It's somewhere over there. But I'm not going to really get into that, because I don't really care in the sense of numbers. I care in the sense of people getting help. Like, when I look at that number, I like to think at some point, maybe not forever, but at some point 100,000 people found some help in my videos. So I look at that number and say that. But other than that, guys, I don't even check YouTube analytics like that. I don't even know how many subscribers I have right now. I genuinely don't know. And I honestly don't want to be one of those YouTubers who focuses too much on growing their channel to the point where everything gets a little too fake. I don't want to ever be that. And I see so many people turn into that. And who knows, maybe by the time you watch this, I've already turned into that and I sold out, maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to try to hold off as long as I can, at least. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's why I started this channel. And I mentally call it the out of shape personal trainer dilemma, where if someone's a personal trainer but they're out of shape, it's going to be hard for their client to listen to them, especially if it regards body composition or things like that. And I know some people don't like this example. I've said it before, and people wrote me essays in the comments. I'm not reading all that this time. I'm just not going to read it. So if you disagree with that, it is what it is. I'm just making a point here. I am one of those people who cannot be trained by an out of shape personal trainer in a sense, but that's applied to general learning, productivity, things like that. One of the channels I do like, by the way, I just thought about this. This is not even in my notes. One of the channels I like, I think his name is Joel Snap. One of the reasons I like his channel is because maybe I'm biased as a combat athlete. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He writes, and he also plays piano, and he lays out his experiences with how he learns, the books he's reading, all that kind of stuff. And when I see people like him, I honestly wish channels like that were way bigger. I'll tag the channel if I can, but go follow him. He has really good advice and like just experiences overall. If you find channels like that, these are the people I think you should be listening to. If you see the lighting changing, by the way, it's because I'm adding some stuff into the video that I think should be here. And I guess the other reason is that I just think most people are flat out wrong in these fields that I kind of talk about. And you may look at me and say, well, you're wrong about a lot of stuff too. And that's okay. I don't mind. I actually encourage people to challenge what I say and all that, because then again, you'll develop your own system and your own way of doing, and that ultimately will get you the results that you're looking for. I know I typically soften my words by saying that, you know, everybody's different and you have to take what works for you and all that, which I do believe, but there is just a lot of flat out wrong information on the internet. And I hope one day this overcomplicated nonsense is not going to be mainstream. But one thing I also noticed with me making this channel is that most channels are not actually productive. I guess this is kind of the same as what I just said. Most people don't have results. But even that, like, if the most productive thing you do is telling other people how to be productive, but there's no actual sense behind that, or like there's no actual productivity, I mean, I don't know. I just can't get behind that. And mainly because I think the barrier of entry to that is just so simple. You know, I can go read Atomic Habits, Deep Work, all that kind of stuff, get a summary and just regurgitate that in a video, and people can just assume I'm productive because I know the book. But am I actually productive? And again, maybe this makes me the bad guy because I'm a little too judgmental, but I can't learn from people who are not actually doing something. And like, I guess modern YouTube, it's almost better to know the information and to sound like you know what you're talking about than it is to actually know what you're talking about. And that is something that I just don't like. And I hope one day that we can shift back to what works in real life and what people's experiences shape them into being. And that is what people will draw from, not just what works in some super specific curated environment or like a book or a spreadsheet and all that. Another reason is that I think most people overcomplicate the simplest of things. One of my favorite videos I made on this channel is the anti-routine method, or like you don't need a routine to get results. That's one of my favorite videos on the channel because it's truly one of the best ways to get results. I'm not going to explain what's in the video. You can go watch that. That is honestly so much better than all of these things that people make, these Notion templates and overcomplicated systems and knowing all these deep, complex concepts. I got the most results in my life, and I see people in other areas with the most results in their life just by doing things in a very simple, uncomplicated way. And I think these days, people equate complication to like workability. I don't know if that's the right word, but they equate complication to how much something is going to work. The more complicated it is, the better it's going to work for me, or the more I can get out of it. When really it's the opposite. The more complicated it is, the less you're going to get done in most cases, because it's so complicated and because you're going to end up focusing on things that don't really matter. You'll see this a lot in productivity fields. You'll see this extremely high in the fitness community. There's so much, I call it SLOP, of course, but there's so much focus on these minor variables that don't matter, when really the basics give you, I would argue, 95% of the results that you're looking for. This is the same thing with productivity. Most people are so caught up in all these specific things and optimizations and all this other garbage that they just miss the plot. Because I see that in my life, I've tried that other stuff. and it didn't work. And I've tried the simple route, and that's how I get extreme amount of results. That is what I want to put out on YouTube. It's really just that simple. You do the thing, find things you can't do, practice it until you can do it well, find something new, and that's it. Another reason I made this channel is because I don't like when people take titles and, how do I say it, accolades to qualify themselves in order to get you to listen. It's called appeal to authority. Things like, hey, I'm a doctor, I have a PhD in this and blah, 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 and this is why you should listen to me. Now let me tell you some nonsense that doesn't work. That sounds kind of mean, but that's honestly how I think. Now, I'm not saying that being that is bad. I've graduated from university. I've done science and studies myself. I also have titles from university and the military that I could leverage for the same thing, appeal to authority. But one of the reasons I just put Von Gene, some guy on the internet here, is because I don't believe in that. I think you should just look at what's tangible and go based off that. I can tell you I'm a this and that, and I have all these things, but if I'm saying some nonsense, that's it. You should just stop it there. There's probably more reasons I started this channel, but I guess I saw a problem with modern learning and productivity based content, and I see the direction that it's unfortunately been going, and I don't want that to continue. Squidward has a line, and I talked about this on my Instagram. Squidward has a line where he says, everybody's an idiot except for me. And I hate to admit this, I really do. But I do think most people are just wrong. They're just flat out wrong, and I'm right. And that's life, Maybe I'm bad for that. Tell me in the comments. You can, say what you got to say. But yeah, it's kind of a necessary evil to help out the population here. Which leads me to the next little talking point. Faceless channels and AI productivity slop. I really don't want to beat the dead horse again, but if you're watching faceless channels on like things that require human experience, and it's just a bunch of anime edits and some script telling you how to do something and there's no proof behind it, just stop. I'm just going to tell you now, just stop. And if your favorite channel is a faceless slop channel like that, I don't really care how you feel about that. You should probably unsubscribe from that and actually go watch someone else. You don't even have to watch me. This could be the last time you ever see my face. Just stop watching the slop. That's all I'll say about that. I'm not a big fan of faceless channels at all, unless there's a human behind it and like they're showing their experience through whatever they're putting on the screen, because that's a real thing. But I'm talking more so about scripted, AI, overly edited slop. You have to stop watching that, especially if you're trying to learn human concepts from things like that. It's just not going to work for you. Unless it does, then you can write me an essay, and that's the essay I will read. An angry essay, but well, this faceless productivity slop actually helped me. If it did, congratulations. If it doesn't, just unsubscribe from those channels. Next topic is video games, and specifically fighting games. Are they unproductive or a superpower? So I think something that was cool for me growing up is I played a lot of video games, and what I did learn is how to grind and stay focused. Now, I know people like to demonize video games and say they're bad, they're a waste of time and all this dopamine and all that, but it does teach you general concepts of just how to work hard, grit, especially if you play fighting games. You guys already know, studying frame data, learning specific matchups, learning how to counter certain things. This takes a lot more work than people realize. Now, I do believe they can be unproductive if you're not able to make that switch. And how I made this switch personally is going cold turkey. Now, I think this is one of the only ways to make this switch. I don't believe you can balance a really high dopamine activity like fighting games or video games in general with trying to learn skills at the same time. I do believe there's a season where you need to just completely cut out video games altogether and put all of that energy into guitar or piano or something else that's not giving you that same hit. Now, how long this is, it can be 30 days, it could be 2 months. Personally, mine went for about 6 months. When the first time I ever did this, I think it was about 6 months, but it wasn't a target. Like, it was not, I didn't say for 6 months I'm gonna stop playing video games. It was more so, I'm just gonna stop completely, do this, and try to get my body used to doing something else that's not giving me that super dopaminic feedback. I don't know if dopaminec's a word, it is now, but I wasn't getting that feedback. That's my point. I do also believe that because I grew up playing video games, this gives me a significant advantage over other people who are not used to sticking with something for a long time or grinding things out. And I believe most gamers have the ability to be really good guitar players, really good at sports, really good at piano, just very productive overall if they can make that switch. And so, again, if you're trying to make that switch, I would say take a time, even if it's just 2 weeks, of just all the time you put into video games, put that into something else. Just substitute the time. Do not put that into social media instead, because you would be defeating the purpose. But try to put that into that activity that you're thinking about. Also notice people who tend to demonize video games, they're really not doing anything anyways. Like they'll sit down and binge watch sports or Netflix and then tell you that video games are bad for you and all this other stuff. You can't listen to those people because you can see the obvious, but they can't. I was fortunate to where when I grew up, my parents did not have a hatred to video games. They actually bought me a lot of games and encouraged it as long as I was doing my other stuff. But I know some people deal with the fact that they like games, but their family or friends think it's a waste of time. If they're not who you want to be, you can't listen to them. And even if they are, you have to look at other examples. Look at people like me. I play a lot of video games when I can, especially fighting games that are good and aren't, just sloppy. If they're good, I'll play those a lot and I'll still be able to do my other tasks. So look at better examples of what you want to be. I'm going to open Discord really quick to see what the other talking points were. I totally forgot the next ones. Okay, mobility. General health mobility, like body mobility. I'm not talking about mental mobility. I mean mobility training. I believe this is a very underrated aspect of being productive overall. And I'm not going to get into the science and studies and spreadsheets and all that. But if your body is mobile and flexible and you can move and sit comfortably and move comfortably, this is going to remove a lot of the mental load off of you in order to focus on other things. I sit down for a long time throughout the day, for example, either playing guitar or piano or sitting down like I am right now recording this or on my computer. And when I do my hip mobility, it basically undoes all of the sitting that I do. And if I weren't doing this, I would end up with hip pain, back pain, and feel a bit sluggish when I'm walking around, which would then impede the things that I actually want to do. But I don't deal with that because I do mobility twice a day usually, either in the morning and after the gym, or if I don't go to the gym that day, I'll do it in the morning and a little bit before bed. So I think you should invest in a solid mobility routine. I will put some channels that I like up on the screen. You can follow these and make sure you actually do them. Mobility only goes as far as you go. And you don't need a whole lot, just some sessions per day. Even if it's just once a day for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, that's a good start. And then throughout the day, just find times to stretch and move your body in certain ways, especially opposite of what you're doing. For example, I'm sitting down. So when I get up, I can do a cobra stretch or just reach my arms overhead to kind of do the opposite of what I'm doing right now, which is sitting down, kind of hunched over. This is what I mean. You want to get your mobility in and definitely focus on those opposite pivot points of your body. Next one, this is a question from the Discord. So this question is about using resources that are not on your phone, basically, or using physical media rather than something that can lead to distractions. I would opt for whatever helps you get into that quicker. So whether that's the computer, whether that's your phone or whatever, do that. And if you find something that is limiting you on whatever device you're using it, that is what you should focus on, blocking that. For example, I use Anki on my phone a lot to study vocabulary words, but I also have social media on my phone. So what I do is I'll either just remove the app for a while, or I'll use like the focus thing to just block it out. And that way I don't see notifications. And at first, you may feel like you have to resist the urge to go press it or unfocus your thing so you can go take a peek into the apps. But once you're doing the thing, it really won't be that hard to just stay focused on whatever you're trying to do. If you find that it's a consistent roadblock, though, then opt for the computer or opt for something that does not have easily available distraction. But I am a big fan of doing whatever helps you do that thing more. And for me, I have an iPad and a phone, and Anki is on both of those. And I prefer to use that for Anki because I can just walk around the house and or sit somewhere else and not at my computer and do it. Even though I also use that on my computer, I like using it on mobile because I can just use it anytime. And I notice that I can stack up a lot of vocabulary words or anything I'm studying just like that. I would also find a reason to dislike the distractions. I don't know if this is going to make sense, but for example, social media. I think it's generally a waste of time. And I found a lot of reasons to strongly dislike social media. So this helps me not click it. And I reinforce the idea that, a lot of people are just lying on that app anyways. It's a bunch of highlights. It's literally cooking your brain, that kind of thing. I lock in on why it's bad for you, and this helps me avoid it. It's the same thing I do with junk food. It's hard to stop junk food if you're eating it a lot and it tastes good and you don't know the danger that it's doing. But once you realize the fake food and wax and dough conditioners and all these additives that your body can't digest and the inflammation that it causes, once you realize how much of that is in there, this is a deterrent to eating fast food. Some guy, by the way, had a meltdown about like fake food, pseudoscience. If you're like that, you got to wake up. If you're in 2026 and you don't realize that they're feeding people fake food, you got to pack it up and go somewhere, because it might be over for you. It's time to get educated on simple things like that. It's literally simple. You can look at the ingredients and see that your body can't digest that. I don't know why. Anyway, I don't want to rant, but I don't know why that's even a debate in 2026 or whatever year you're watching this. But anyways, back to the point. The key for me is to find a reason to dislike the distractions more. Another one that used to be a distraction for me is the YouTube homepage, because I would find myself scrolling it, looking for something to hit, basically looking for a dopamine hit. And I noticed this was a complete waste of time for me because nothing I actually clicked was that meaningful at the time. Most of the meaningful videos that I've watched are things that I've directly sought out. So this is one of the reasons that I don't like to stay on the YouTube For You page or the homepage or whatever it's called. Learning skills with a 9 to 5 and certain days off. I would, number one, this is going to sound a little corny, but be grateful that you have the ability to work and earn money. That's number one. The next thing I would say is to fit things in where you can. So most people's 9 to 5s is not like building construction and all that from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's not most people. If it is, then you don't have time to even think about other things. But if you have downtime at work, learn to use that correctly. You can do this by not getting on social media. That's a big one. You can set up your study for later. You can kind of get material that you're going to use when you get home. Again, you can do a lot of studying just on your phone if you remove the social media and all the other distractions. But I noticed you can really maximize those little downtimes between your 9 to 5 if you really want to. And when it comes to rest, do that. But this is the part where you're going to have to develop a really good relationship with your hobbies. If your hobbies feel like work, then you're probably not in a good relationship with that thing. If I have an off day, a complete off day, I still end up doing my hobbies because I genuinely like the grind of doing them. I like studying the languages. I like playing my piano and guitar. But this is a byproduct of not treating it like a commitment or a nuisance or things like that. And one of the best ways to develop a good relationship with your hobbies is to enjoy the grind of it. Enjoy the hard work and the result of that hard work. Another thing is to remove school-based mentalities from it. You don't want to have a curriculum-based mindset with how much you can do or how much you have to do or 60 minutes a day and all that. I think this is what creates a negative relationship with the things you like to do for most people. And if you just simply sit down and enjoy the process of working hard, this is going to create a really good relationship with that thing. Now, notice I'm not saying you're having fun the whole time and it's all blissful. I'm not saying that. It is hard work, even if you're doing a hobby. But you want to learn to enjoy the hard work of doing that hobby. This is the key, in my opinion. If you try to escape the hard work and make it fun and playful and Dora the Explorer vibes and all that, you're not going to get results and you're probably going to burn out. I don't know why I used Dora the Explorer there, but whatever. But if you know right away, this is going to require hard work, but I'm just going to enjoy the process of doing it, then the results will be a natural byproduct of that. I think once you're able to do something like that, you're going to naturally get good at those things on your rest days and your downtime and all that, because then you'll be more excited to go do the thing. Okay, last topic, meditation. I think this is the last topic at least. Now, I don't meditate at all. I know that's maybe shocking to some of you, but I don't believe in meditation because for me, meditation is doing whatever you're trying to do with focus. So I meditate while playing guitar, for example, if I'm just focused on the guitar. I don't need to sit down and breathe and think about nothing and let thoughts pass through. That's great if it works for you. I'm not going to sit here and say meditation doesn't work because there's obviously people that do it and benefit from it. It's just not something that I do. I don't want to sit down for 30 minutes and breathe when I can just sit down and play guitar for 30 minutes instead. That's just my mindset behind that, but you can do whatever you want. If you don't have a lot of distractions around you when you're doing that thing, what you're going to realize is that you get lost in that, getting lost in art, basically. And that does feel just like meditation. I do that when I'm cleaning my house too. I just get lost in it and time really just flies by. That kind of feels the same. I've tried meditating in the past, but I just get annoyed because I guess as a time-based guy, I'm thinking to myself, you know, why am I just not playing piano right now? Or am I sitting here breathing when I could just be doing the activity? But again, that's just me. It works for me. If meditation works for you, I'm not going to tell you to stop. Now, I just generally don't believe in clearing your mind. I'm kind of against that. I know some people say you need to meditate because you need a break from your own thoughts and all that. I don't believe in that. I think if you have certain thoughts, you just deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, you just move on to something else. That's about it. Because if you're sitting there constantly trying to escape your own self and thoughts, you need a break from your brain and all that. I don't think that's going to be a healthy finish line there. It looks like these other questions, I'm looking now, are based off of these two videos that I'm going to put on the screen. The answers are in these videos. I will say this though, if you watch a video of mine, I'm not trying to increase my analytics, but watch the entire video. A lot of the questions that I get are answered in the videos because I preemptively understand that certain questions are going to come up. One being something like, when should I add a new hobby? Well, you should add a new hobby when the one before that is consistent. That can be the next day, that can be the next week, or the next year, or whenever. Whenever that's consistent, then you can add a new one. I answer questions like that in most videos because I know certain questions are going to come up because I had these same questions. And as you know, most of these videos are based on problems that I used to have, and I just give you the solutions that I figured out on my own or someone else taught me. So I know our attention spans are cooked, and I don't do a lot of dopamine editing, so it may be hard to watch an entire video, and I talk kind of smooth and slow and mellow and all that. But really, if it's 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes of your life, guys. You'll get over it. You spend 30 minutes DMing some girl, so just take the time to watch the whole thing. Then if I don't answer the question, you can put it in the comments, and that can be a future talking point. Anyways, I think that is it for this video. If you have any other topics or talking points that you want me to talk about, put them in my Discord. I have a Q&A section. You can just put them down. They're not going to be grouped in certain ways. It's just whatever I feel like talking about that day. Not all my videos will be like this, but some will, where I just feel like putting out something for people. Maybe you want to ride in the car and listen to it or whatever. You could do that. But that is about it. Anyway, subscribe, and like the video if you liked the video. If you don't do any of that, of course, I'm going to send one of these to come get you. Love you guys, and see you in the next one. Peace.